Welcome back, ladies. We're going to go straight back into the Word and just pick up where we left off last week. We're going to look today at the life of Esther. Now, to me, I love the story of Esther. Lady Rose is built around the story of Esther. My whole life, I can testify about the story of Esther and how God took me through the different processes that Esther went through. But where people or women tend to get it wrong is that it's not a fairy tale story. It's not about the dress, it's not about the crown, it's most definitely not about that. Esther was a woman that God has chosen. She was an orphan. We're going to go into all of that had a destiny and a purpose.
Yes.
The day they came in, the gods came in to take her captive because she was taken captive. And I think that's the part that most of us don't even look into. We read the story and think, oh, they took Esther and they took her to the palace. But at that moment, like Pastor Karen said just now when we spoke, that she didn't know where she was going. She didn't know why they came to fetch her. And actually at that stage, they took her hostage, if you can call it that, as a prostitute.
Yes.
Because they took her to the harem. That's where they took her to. She was a young Jewish girl, never been with a man before, and here the gods pitch up at the door, taking her to the palace. Actually to the harem. At that stage, she didn't know that she was going to end up in the palace. So Esther is not, so many times we will say, called for such a time as this. But we don't understand the implication and the sacrifice and the price to pay to be called for such a time as this.
Yes.
Now Chantal, if you are this young, let's say you are 18 years old and here comes the police and they knock at the door and they take you away from your mother and your father. How would you feel at that moment? Because that's exactly what Esther went through.
Linda, sorry, Chantal, she must have been 13, 14. Because that's the years that they used to get married.
That's true.
So just put
That's
you
true.
back in a 13, 14-year-old girl's body.
Yeah.
18 years, you've seen a bit of life. 13 years, you're so innocent. You're still a child.
Can you imagine?
No. At 13, my mother was teaching me how to bake. She was teaching me how to cook. I was sheltered by my parents. No harm could come upon me because I was in a sheltered, closed environment, loved by both my parents. So Linda, I cannot even imagine. I cannot even. The fear with that, the anxiety with that, the not knowing with that, the all your dreams shattered right there and then when that knock is on that door, it opens and people come and rip you away from your family. It's actually, when I think about it now, your whole life falls apart right there and then.
Yes. And that is just to start reading the Word in truth.
Yes.
Because we read the Word from the beginning to the end and we know how it ends. But at that moment she didn't know how it was going to end.
We know how the story ends.
We know, but she didn't know it. And isn't it like that in our lives? We go through certain things where we feel taken into captivity. Let's say, for instance, you are in captivity of sleeping pills or an abusive husband.
Yes.
You are in captivity, so you can relate to what she might have felt at that very moment. We've all been at a place. And if you look at the life of Esther, the different stages that we're going to go through, all of our lives look like this.
Yes.
All of our lives where we are protected, innocent, where we step out into the world and we're taken into captivity by the enemy, and all these things starts happening with us. We don't know what our end's going to be like.
That's true.
If Esther gave up at that moment when they took it, or if she refused to go with it, which I think she maybe did, but if she gave up that moment in her life, she would never have reached her destiny.
Yes.
So that is what I want us to go into, to make the lives of these women real. It's not just a fairy tale story. So if we look further at the life of Esther, I mean, we know that she was an orphan.
Yes.
I think that the moment that she was actually torn out of her home, it was the second time she lost everything, because the first time was in Jerusalem. The first time when her parents got killed and she was taken away to Jerusalem. Can you imagine that journey that she had to go through? So then she ended up with Mordecai, her uncle. Her uncle, yeah. And there she was loved and accepted, but suddenly she's torn away from that. A second time she lost everything. But the wonderful thing about Esther is that she had character and integrity.
Yes.
That's true.
And all of these things can either happen to us, can either break you or make you strong, like the word says. It builds, patience builds character and integrity. So she really had, she was a wonderful little girl, but she grew up into a strong woman.
Wow.
And like you say, she could have taken the circumstances and it could have broken her. But instead,
Yes, she lost her parents. She lost her. She loses the only other person in her life,
that she knows.
and she's taken into a Gentile court. She's a Jewish girl. She's taken into a Gentile court according to the law of Moses. They mustn't marry or have anything to do with a Gentile. So, and there she's put, but there she shows her first. You get a glimpse of her character when she speaks to Haggai, and she does whatever he tells her to do. But she also did whatever her uncle told her to do.
Yes.
yeah, she was submissive.
So she was very obedient,
Yeah.
very clever, woman, very clever,
Yeah.
very clever, and
Yeah. And all of us go through that. I mean, all of us go through the orphan experience. I mean, Chantal, I know that your parents physically died.
Yeah.
I know that okay, you share with them.
Well, I'm actually my real dad. I don't actually my dad that raised me actually adopted me, and I never knew it. So when I turned 16. I turned 16. I actually discovered, but that's not my real dad. So for the 16 years, my whole life was a lie, and I had to choose what am I going to do with that.
Wow.
Exactly.
So, but what is also about Esther, what is standing out for me is the fact that whatever the enemy intended for her harm, God turned it around and He used it for the good.
Exactly.
And the same, I can say the same about my life. Whatever the enemy intended for my harm, God turned it around and used it for the good.
So being an orphan, we can be an orphan in the world, not knowing Jesus, but we can also be an orphan in God's kingdom.
Yeah.
Chantal.
You can be born again, saved, but you can have a spirit of an orphan.
Yes.
And how do I identify that? When everybody is in a crowd, when the four of us is together, but I pull away, I don't feel worthy enough to be a part of this. That's a sign of an orphan spirit.
Yeah.
When every time when I will always push you in front, nobody's always you, or you can see when somebody feels they're not worthy.
Yeah.
Their countenance are not lit. They don't talk much. They've got a lot to give, but they don't talk much because it's not. Nothing has been. There's nothing that brings it out. Now, how do we deal with that? So, like you say, we many times I don't even know that I've got an orphan spirit.
Yes.
Sometimes we go through life and I don't even know. Unworthiness is one of the key points of an orphan spirit. Low self-esteem is another one. That is signs of I feel rejected.
Yes.
Because being an orphan is I'm rejected, isn't it?
you're unloved.
That's true.
I'm unloved.
Unlovable.
Yes,
as well.
That's the thing. I'm unlovable. So you know what? That unlovable spirit pushes people away in my life so that you don't come close to me, because if I allow you in, you will hurt me. So many of us go through that in our lives.
But also that need to prove yourself the whole time.
To belong.
And to belong where you don't, where you feel you don't
And
belong.
nowhere in the Word do you read that Esther tried to prove herself.
Nowhere.
No way.
Nowhere.
Nowhere do you read that.
Yeah.
Did she know that she was going to become queen? No. It was a part of her character. I think she made a decision, no matter what her circumstances were, no matter where she found herself, that she was going to be submissive unto God. Just as she was submissive unto Mordecai and unto Haggai, she was first and most submissive to God.
Yes.
She chose to be submissive to God. She chose to be obedient to God. That is why when Haggai told them to ask of anything that they can take into the inner courts of the king, she asked him, what is the king like?
But the fact of the matter is that nowhere God's mentioned in the book of Esther.
Yeah, that's true. It's
So,
the only book in the Bible. that
It's
is
the
not
only book in the
mentioned.
Bible where God
Yes.
is not mentioned.
Yeah.
But I think that, look, they were brought up with
Yeah.
all their tradition and the way that they believe and everything, because they were a pocket of Jewish people in that area in that time that followed all the religious practices. So I think she was very well trained in the way that she should
That is the
do things.
That's exactly what stands out for me. Esther knew who she
Yes.
was.
Yes.
That's true.
She was strong in who she was, and nothing could move her.
That's true.
Not even her circumstances
Yes.
could move her at the time. Her foundation
Yes.
was so solid that even if they took her captive, hostage, however you want to put it up, she was strong
Yes.
in who she was.
Yes.
You and I had this conversation some time ago about your children, about how I was raised. My father was not even serving God at one stage of his life, but he trained me in the way that I should go. So when I left to go and move to England, everybody was doing drugs. Everybody was going to clubs. Everybody where I was working.
That wasn't part of who you were at all.
Nothing that they said could move me because my foundation was solid. I knew who
Yes.
I was.
Yes.
I feel this girl had that character. I
Yes.
know who I am.
Yes.
She did not walk in an orphan spirit.
Yes.
She did not
She
have
did not.
an orphan
Yes.
mentality.
No.
No.
Yes.
Why are women shaken today? Why do we feel threatened towards each other?
Because we have an orphan
Because
mentality.
we've got an
If I look at my life,
Wow.
Linda, and what I've been through, the rejection, the fact that I didn't know I was adopted, and lots of other stuff that happened. For a long time, I battled with rejection. I didn't know, and especially with my relationship with God, because of that rejection.
Yeah.
You see, I had no foundation to fall back
You
on.
didn't know the
That's
Father
right.
heart, really.
I didn't know yeah.
Yes.
So that
Sure.
if you don't sort out that stuff, it can ruin you. And like Esther, she was rooted. She was grounded.
In her, even though she was raised in a traditional way,
Yes.
according to, but she knew who she was.
She
Yes.
knew. And I'm sure her mom and dad had a role to play.
Yes.
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 In her early years, and then Mordecai took over, and he gave her wise counsel as well. But it was also so interesting that he told her not to say that she was a Jewish
Yes.
lady. It was just, I just feel God hovering in the background
Yes.
the whole
Oh,
time.
And they just
The whole
acting
time, and it
on
says in the
disobedience.
word, the king's hearts are like water, and he's just he moved Ahasuerus as well as he wanted him to move. He was just in the background
Yeah.
moving
And
everything.
even changing
Yeah.
her name.
Yeah.
So if she
Yeah.
wasn't rooted, if her identity
Yeah.
wasn't established, it would have been a huger problem to change her name. That would have been, if she wasn't properly established, that would have been another problem because
Because
it
it's
would.
her identity.
It's her identity.
So the greatest thing that causes women to miss their destiny
Yes.
is not knowing who they are.
Yes.
Is not having an identity. Is not understanding and being rooted once again in the word. Once again Esther didn't know where she was going to end up. But
Yes.
she knew who she was, and because of that she could act on every commission that God gave
Yes.
her.
Yes.
We're going to go into that a bit deeper now. But Chantal, why will you say that identity, around women's identities?
Linda, today I sit here and we are here based on a dream that you had. We are living your dream at this moment. But each and every one of us sitting here, if I take myself, I know who I am in the Lord. So I don't have a reason to be jealous because I'm rooted in God's word. I know what He wants for me. I know my assignment. I know my calling. So nobody and nothing will intimidate me.
Yes, that's true.
None of us here. Pastor Karen is, I almost want to say, a mother of many things. A TV network, successful radio station, successful church. Bianca is successful in what she does for you. You have a beauty range, you have a magazine, everything is successful. I have a TV program, I'm a radio presenter, I'm a pastor, I'm a minister of the gospel. And none of us here sit and think, oh, you just, you know, because all of us on this set knows exactly what we are called for. I know who I am in God.
Yes.
I found my identity within Him.
Yes.
That's
I
Within
think,
Him.
I think that's what
true.
each and everyone, the first goal that they have to do when they switch off the television or when they go on with their lives is pray God will show them who they are in Him
Yes.
and what their purpose is.
Yeah.
And because their identity they will find in Christ, for what their purpose is,
Yes.
so that they will follow that single-mindedly. Because the value system of the world changes the whole time.
Yes.
And we grow old and stuff changes. You can't find your value in this world. You'll have to find it
Amen.
in here. And if you are single-mindedly pursuing your purpose and what God wants you to do, then you don't have time for other stuff.
To chase someone
other
else's
people.
dream, to chase someone
Or
else.
you don't want to, be envious or feel unloved or unworthy or whatever. Because you know who you are.
And there Esther is an example again, because it was not just Esther that went in before the king.
Yes.
There was quite
There
a
was
few.
quite
Quite
a
a
few.
few.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
But she didn't feel threatened. If you
Yeah.
read it,
Yeah.
nowhere do you read that she felt threatened by the other women.
She was
But-
not also, sorry Linda,
Yeah.
competing with them.
No, she
No.
wasn't.
That's the thing.
But I believe they were competing with her.
They
And
were
you-
competing because
Yes.
it was a beauty pageant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a contest.
Yeah, it was.
And the one that won got into with the king, and that was like the prize.
Yeah.
So it was a beauty pageant.
And isn't our lives as women beauty pageants?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where everybody is contesting against each
one
other
another.
for the prize. Where Jesus died on the cross, and it's for all of us.
Yes.
There's no contest before our King. If we talk about Jesus,
Yes.
our King, there's no contest. We're going to stand in front of our King one day.
Yes.
And He's not going to say, I love you more than what I love them. He's going to say, well done, good and faithful servant. Or He's going to say, you know what, Chantal, I had this and this and this in store for you, but because you were, I'm just saying it now in general, you were jealous over Sunny. You never fulfilled your destiny
Yeah.
because
Oh, how
your
sad.
focus was on the
How
wrong.
sad.
Your focus was on Sunny's life and not on your life.
Linda, the one thing that I've today know beyond a shadow of a doubt, your purpose will make you stand out in a crowd.
That's
Yes.
You don't have to fluff, you don't have to do your hair, you don't have to put on, you can.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Oh, I like to dress up. I know. My wife, I like to dress
I
up.
know.
You know what I'm saying? But the key is your gift will always make room for you. And your purpose needs a place.
Yes.
And God will give your purpose a place.
But also someone to guide you.
Yes.
As
Your mentor.
Haggai,
Yeah.
Holy Spirit guided her, and she asked him, as we should ask Jesus,
Yes.
what must we do to prepare for
Yes.
that moment that we are in His presence?
Where He's going to position you
Hey.
for your destiny.
Yes.
And we're going to get into that in the next one.
Yeah, I know. I'm jumping the gun a little bit, but I'm just so excited.
And,
There's
and-
so much
yeah.
in here, isn't it?
Yes. And Linda, not everybody is called to be a queen.
Yes.
We are
see?
all queens in God's eyes,
But
but not all of us is called for the same thing. I mean, like I'm here to assist you and I'll walk the road with you. But I mean, Chantal, she's got step up. Pastor Karen, she's a pastor's wife. She leads a church. Not all of us is called for the same thing, but God looks at our heart and He looks at what we are doing and what we are willing. And if He called you, even how small, it doesn't matter. If He called you for something small, like you always say, to raise the next Billy Graham, then that is what you're called for.
Yeah.
I know, Bianca.
Don't
Just
despise
imagine
it.
everybody
Embrace
wants to
it.
stand in front, then
Yes.
at the end there will be nobody in the seats left.
Yes.
that's true.
Because everybody will be in front preaching to an empty hall or
Yes.
church.
Yes, yes. And within that, I believe that when we read, so many times we read it. And I want to go to the next, I know we're just going to touch on it and the time's going to run out, so we're going to go in deeper. But Esther went before the king. So she was taken captivity, then and she was an orphan, taken into captivity into the palace. But then she went before the king and she found favor with the king. And
Yes.
she became queen. but that is not where it stops. So many times people will look at Esther's story, oh, she became queen and there it stops. That was not her destiny.
Yes.
That was her position. That was God
That's
positioning her for her destiny. The story does not stop there. So many people will say, called for such a time as this, and they think of Esther becoming a queen. That was not what she was called for.
Yeah.
That was her position to fulfill her destiny.
Yes.
Because after that, God stripped her again. After that, it came out that there was a death sentence written against her people. The king did not know at that stage that she was a Jew. So after becoming queen, she was positioned. She was in the palace. She still did not know. Maybe Esther at that time thought, oh, this is what I was born for, to become the next queen. But then came the news that Mordecai said that there is a decree against our people. You need to go. Maybe you were called for such a time as this. There her destiny started.
Yes.
And where was it unlocked? On her knees in front of our King of Kings.
Yes.
When she came, she laid down her crown, she took off the dress,
Yeah.
she was in sackcloth for 3 days,
Yes.
where she prayed. She stripped herself
Yeah.
of everything before her King,
Yes.
our King,
Yes.
Jesus Christ, our Father, not before the physical King. That is where destiny was birthed. That is where her purpose was birthed. And that is to save a nation.
Amen.
That is what happened there. So we all, in our own personal lives, were at that stage where God positioned us. And the moment He positions us, our Hamans
Yes.
arises, if I can say that. What was your Haman?
Linda, so many things. My brain is going at 1,000 miles. I don't even know where to touch and where to leave. You know the thing with that specific scenario that you just said? Esther was in her prayer room seeking the face of God. There will always be a Haman. There will always be an enemy. There will always be opposition. But if I can stay long enough in my prayer room, it doesn't matter what waits for me outside, because I will come out strong. It doesn't matter what, who, and what situation is waiting for me. She was in that process of it's not sacrifice, is not the word. She was in that process where she was isolated and being purified
Yes.
for that spot to rule and reign. Each and every one of us gets the position to get into the place where God gets you ready, purified, shaped, holy and righteous, that He can execute you
With a pure heart.
with a pure heart. Then He will execute you into the place. Because remember, this is the key about this whole thing. We are called to rule and to reign.
To have dominion.
But we will not do that effectively if I'm not in my prayer room.
Yes.
That's
If you
true.
don't come to the end of yourself, and it's the end of the program again. So we are going to carry on this topic in our next program. But yes, we have to come to the end of ourselves. We will realize that it's not about us.
Yes.
It's not about the position you have.
Yes.
It's not about, it's all about the kingdom and God's people.
And being positioned.
And
And being
Being
positioned
positioned.
to be effectively.
Yes.
Yes.
Because out of your positioning, your destiny is birthed. Out of that place, like you
And
always
who
say, we're
knows?
going to get into that in the next show. Out of that place, out of that position, and with every woman that we're going to go into, there's always a positioning, and then their destiny was birthed.
Amen.
We're going to look at all of that. So, ladies, it was, I can't believe the time goes so fast. It's as if we just get into the word. Maybe we must make it an hour show. I'm just saying. But we just get into the word, and then it's time again to go. So thank you, ladies.
Bless you, ladies.
We're going to keep on that point, and then we're going to see all of you next week.